Today on Mr. Media, I'll talk to former Minnesota Governor Jesse Ventura, who's touring with an independent run for president in 2016. His choice for vice president? Howard Stern. Yep, that Howard Stern. Ventura is the author of a new political screed called DemoCRIPS and ReBLOODlicans, No More Gangs in Government. Stick around. Let's see if I can avoid being pinned to the mat in the first round. This is Bob Andelman, and this is the Mr. Media Interview, brought to you today by the Stitcher app for mobile devices. Give it a test drive today at Stitcher.com/MRmedia, Mr. Media. I love this free radio app, and I think you will too. Stitcher.com/MRmedia. Mr. Media is recorded live before a studio audience of wrestling executives' wives running for U.S. Senate in the great state of Connecticut, in the new media capital of the world, St. Petersburg, Florida. Underestimate Jesse Ventura at your own risk. He may be an ex-wrestler and a guy who sounds on the radio a bit like Howard Stern whackpacker Bigfoot, but a lot of people have gone wrong thinking the man lacked intellectual heft. Ventura, a former Navy SEAL, was elected governor of Minnesota in 1998 while running as an independent, a rare feat indeed. And he's written 10 books, the last 3 with conspiracy specialist Dick Russell. The thing I find compelling about Ventura's politics is similar to why I'll tune in to Rachel Maddow on MSNBC periodically. While I might not agree with their opinions, I respect that they arrived at their conclusions thoughtfully and logically. In other words, the man once known as the Body puts that brain to work too. Ventura made headlines last week when he kicked off the publicity tour for his latest book, DemoCRIPS and ReBLOODlicans, No More Gangs in Government, on Howard Stern's Sirius radio show, and not only announced his interest in running for president in 2016 as an independent, but making a convincing argument that Stern, who once ran for governor of New York, should be his vice president. And we'll talk about that. By the way, this is the governor's second appearance on Mr. Media. Governor Jesse Ventura, welcome back to Mr. Media.
Hi, Bob. How are you today?
I'm good. Nice to have you here. Okay, so, how seriously should we take your professed interest in running for president, and how much is and how much is it fair to be cynical that you do in fact have a book to promote?
Well, first, because I truthfully don't write the books to get money. I'm paid for them. Certainly Dick Russell writes them with me to get money. I don't need books to survive. I'm financially well off enough that I don't have to write books. I don't take front money on the books, or if I do, it's a very minimal amount by book writing standards. I'm writing these books in hopes of educating people, of hopes to doing things to get them to read them. So when I do publicity tours, it's to bring attention to myself and the latest book I have out, and I want that attention. As far as seriousness in 2016, that'll depend on the people of this country. It truly will, because they need to show me it's worth it to me to do it. I don't see enough people personally that have enough outrage that will work to make this happen. And if they show me that, then I will give it the serious consideration. And as far as Howard's a brilliant man, and Howard brings to the table, I've always felt, when you're going to run for something, you need to bring a running mate that fills in certain voids and certain aspects of the run that you need to have done. And Howard fills in a lot of those on what I need to have done. And, without going into any great specifics. And, trust me, Howard Stern, is an exceptionally intelligent guy. He's got a heart of gold, and there's nothing wrong with the old concept that we're supposed to be elected from the citizenry, and that you bring to bear your life experiences when you hold political office. There's no law that says you have to be a graduate of Harvard Law School. They did not intend for us to all come from aristocratic families and to rule by royal blood and all that nonsense. When our country was formed, it was supposed to be a completely citizen government. Well, last time I checked, Jesse Ventura and Howard Stern are both citizens, aren't they?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I got to tell you, I thought Stern, I think he's quite a brilliant guy, actually.
He is a brilliant guy.
Very, in the same way that I described you and Rachel Maddow, two seemingly completely different people in the introduction, I would include him in that. And just very, you guys have very heartfelt opinions. You express them well, and you have a point of view that
And you know what the best part about it would be? Can you imagine the reaction from the Christian right Republicans? That alone would be worth the price of admission.
That would be worth it, wouldn't it?
Howard Stern and Jesse Ventura. I think they'd be demanding. What's the latest thing they believe in? The rapture or whatever it is. I think they'd be demanding one immediately.
Yeah, I could see that. I can see that.
Got to have a little fun with it, you know.
Well, and the two of you would definitely have fun. I have no doubt. So if we let's say we take this seriously. I mean, I was thinking about the first presidential election in which I was old enough to vote was 1980, and I supported the independent, John Anderson.
Did you? So did I. That's interesting. Yeah, I absolutely voted for John Anderson back in 1980.
And the thing is that in the years since then, now I wound up, I went from, and I was registered independent my whole life until 2008 when my wife implored me to register Democratic, and I did because of the election. I think she was hoping that Hillary Clinton was going to win.
Well, that can happen. There's a lot of great influence put on the people of this country that you have to be one or the other. Mm-hmm. And so I fully understand how something like that can happen.
Well, but my question actually was this. So in all those years between 1980 with Anderson and 2008, I found it frustrating that with the exception of Ross Perot, no one in those nearly 3 decades seemed to have a reasonable shot of winning as an independent. And could you be different in that role?
Oh, sure. I proved it already. Nobody gave me a shot of winning the state of Minnesota either, did they? Mm. See, the other part of what it will take take the public to continue to be engaged. You know, when I won governor of Minnesota, it was like the public said, okay, we put him in there, the big guy can handle it, and they disappeared. That can't happen. Because if by chance I did become president, I would need the public to continue to support me strongly, because if that happened, those two parties are going to make the public suffer. They're going to punish you. They're going to punish you for doing that. So people need to come in with clear in their heads that this is not going to come easy. It's not going to be a walk in the park, unseating this power from the two major parties. It's going to be a war, and they need to prepare for it. And the other thing that it would require, I must be given a guarantee in some way, shape, or form that I can participate in the debates. Because if you're not allowed to debate, which the Democrats and Republicans control that whole system of who gets to and who don't, if I'm not allowed to debate, I cannot win. And I don't go into this, if I do go into things like this, I don't do them to make a statement. That's not me. I go in to win. Mm-hmm. And I will focus on winning. I laughed today, like when I went for governor of Minnesota, I was only polling 10% at the primary, but they allowed me in the debates. I won the election 7 weeks later. So it can happen, but you've got to have the debates to make it happen. But what I was getting back to is we were so focused on winning the election, which you have to be. You can't think of anything beyond winning, because if you come in second, you go back to what you used to do. And so it was funny when we did win governor, I had my key people in my kitchen the next day or day or two later after the election. There were probably 8 or 10 people there, and we all looked at each other and we went, what in the hell do we do now? Because we had never held an office like governor. Mm. And what good does it do to plan for it? You have to win. Otherwise, you've wasted your time.
I think our governor here in Florida, Mr. Scott, has been dealing with that, and he's been governor almost 2 years now. I think he still hasn't figured it out.
Well, I figured it out quickly, yeah. but it was a fast learn. But I mean, we had never won. Nobody had ever beat the Democrats or Republicans. Now all of a sudden I'm the governor, and we all looked at each other. It was funny. We go, what the hell do we do now? You know. But we did very good.
No,
we proved to Minnesota that an independent can be a terrific governor, if I might say so. I had the best. My opponent, Hubert H. Skip Humphrey, came up to me 6 months after I'd been in office, and I respect Skip Humphrey. He came up to me and he said, Governor, he said, you have the best administration the state of Minnesota's ever seen. Why? Because people, when I won, came out of the woodwork. They wanted me to be successful. And that's what it would take. The country has to want this to happen. And then they have to stick with it to ensure that I can be successful if I get there. Mm-hmm. Because these two parties are going to punish you. Oh, you think they're going to stand by and just take it? They'll still have them, just because we're not a dictatorship. It's one thing if you elect a benevolent dictator. Then you can get the job done and do anything you want to do. But we're not electing a dictator, a benevolent dictator. So you still have to deal with the Congress and the Senate and all the rest of the political garbage they've created out there, this whole system of bribery.
How much do you think that enthusiasm can overwhelm money in a race? I mean, certainly it did in yours.
I think it can easily, especially with the Internet today and how you do it. Here's something people need to put their faith in me at. I don't think there's another elected official to major office, be it Congress, Senate, governor, or anything that high. I made more money doing the job than I spent to get it. Mm-hmm. Anyone else be able to say that in the last 50 years? Now, I'm not saying I could make more money being the president than I could spend to have to get that job. But I only raised $300,000 in the state of Minnesota, and I won the governorship. I made $480,000, $120,000 a year as the governor. Mm-hmm. Who else can make that statement?
Well, it seemed to me, I was thinking about, in advance of talking to you, that in 2008, the difference, I think, was enthusiasm, whether it was enthusiasm at first for Hillary Clinton, and then it was enthusiasm for Barack Obama, because these were candidates who looked and talked differently than the typical white men we were.
Well, and they also were selling something. They were also lying to the people. They were telling them change.
Right.
The people obviously wanted change. Well, they haven't delivered.
Well, and where I was
They got all these people's votes, Barack Obama, and he has not delivered change. We're the same government that we were. Like I made the statement that made the papers, I heard a week ago. I said the only difference I can tell between the Bush and the Obama administration is the color of the president's skin.
Well, and where I was going with that was that the difference this year seems to be that the Republican side is pumping hundreds of millions of dollars through the super PACs. But if you took that out of the equation, it seemed like the race, there wouldn't be much of a race. So what I'm thinking is, if thinking ahead 4 more years, if you're in the race, because I suspect you're not going to be someone who's going to try to go out there and raise $1 billion to run.
Not at all.
You're going to do it based on generating enthusiasm, people actually liking it.
And like I did in Minnesota, $50 and $100 contributions from regular citizens. I took no special interest money. I took no PAC money, and I still will keep that. So, the unique thing would be this, and here's the real selling point. I would give the people of this country an opportunity of electing the second president who has never belonged to a political party, and the first one was George Washington. And that, to me, would be my selling point, is saying, look, elect me. I don't belong to either of these parties, so therefore I will show neither of them any favoritism when it comes to governing the country. I'll try to work with them, but I'll need you to stand with me when I have to stand against them.
Mm-hmm. Now, are you willing to say unequivocally that if your supporters got you on the ballot in 50 states, that you if I can see my name in 2016 on the ballot in all 50 states, and if I'm given some type of guarantee that because of that I will be allowed to debate, I will give a damn consideration to doing it. You got about 3 years, because I figure I got to start about a year ahead of time. At least, yeah.
So you got a 3-year window.
Well,
And I need to see that, because we are a country today that is demanding revolution, and yet we're so damn apathetic at the same time. No one is happy with government, yet they're too apathetic to do anything about it. I need them to show me that they're not apathetic, or I'm not going to waste my time.
Sure.
I'm not going to put myself out there unless I see a sign from the people of this country, and one of the things would be for them to get me ballot access in all 50 states, because it would require people to do something and not get paid for it.
Now, I'm sure that gets a lot of people charged up, but what I'm curious about is, you said when you were on Stern's show last week that the main reason you didn't run for re-election in Minnesota was that your wife was not happy with public life. So
not just that, but
Okay.
she also had a health issue.
And
My wife had a health issue that I needed to deal with, and I will always put my wife before holding any political office. I'll tell you that right now. Now, does she control me? Can she tell me no, no, no? She didn't want me to run for governor, and I did it. She didn't want me to run for mayor, and I did it. So she will voice her concern, but ultimately she will back me 100% when I come to my decision.
okay, this is where I was going with this. I thought if she was not happy with politics in Minnesota, how would she feel about Washington, D.C.? I would think it'd be a far cry worse.
Well, we also have a home in Mexico, and the one thing we've agreed upon is that if I do seek office, that she's not going to fulfill the role that they put women into as being a first lady.
Interesting.
So, because to me, that's what do you need that for? To me, it's borderline English royalty. It is. It's like a tribute to where we came from with British royalty. And so my wife today wishes that she would have just kept running her horse ranch and not even taken the job, but she wasn't that way at the time. She took the job for free, lost her business because of it. And I got in trouble because I came out and said First Lady should be paid. And the reason I said that was her job was to run the governor's residence and its entire staff. Now, here she is. She has an assistant who's being paid $50,000 a year, and she isn't paid.
Right.
Explain that to me. When the assistant is with her all the time doing what she's doing to benefit the state of Minnesota. In other words, she's working for the state of Minnesota and she ain't getting paid. The same way as Michelle Obama is working for the United States government and she's not being paid.
That seems like a fair request.
Well, if they want my wife to work as the first lady, then pay her. Because that's a job.
All right. Well,
and I got in trouble because I came out when I was governor and said First Lady should be paid. It's sexist. I'm waiting for the first time. Here's the deal. I'm waiting the first time we get a female governor, you get a female president. Is the husband going to be the first gentleman, and will he have to leave his job to perform that duty?
I'd like to know the same thing. I think we're all kind of curious about that.
Me too. And so be clear about that. When I when I first ran in Minnesota for governor and I announced my candidacy on the steps of the Capitol in January that year in '98, first thing the media said to me is, "Where's your family?" Because normally you do those photo ops with the wife and the kids and you show everyone that you're the perfect nuclear family and all this stuff. I looked at the media and said, my family's not here because this has nothing to do with them. I said, this is the business of running the state of Minnesota government. That's the job I'm running for. I said, my family is that they're not running for it. This has nothing to do with them.
Well, let me ask you one more question about presidency.
So bear in mind, if you get me, you may not have a first lady.
I could live with that.
Because my wife may want to stay in the private sector and do what she does, and not. And plus, for my end of it, if they work for the government, they deserve to get paid by the government. That's simple.
So let me ask you this. So I know how you feel about the two-party system, and yet it's an election year. How did someone who feels as strongly about the parties. What do you do when it comes to the ballot box in November?
I proudly, I go and I proclaim to the world, as I will do to you, I will proudly, Jesse Ventura will proudly and patriotically cast my vote for Governor Gary Johnson, the Libertarian candidate for president. And I urge people to join me and realize when they tell you you're voting for a third party, you're wasting your vote. I would reverse that and say if you vote for a Democrat or Republican, you've wasted your vote because you're going to get the same government you've always got. It isn't going to make a difference. But if you vote for Gary Johnson, you'll be voting like a patriot for a vote that would make a difference if he won. And so I go with a clear conscience, knowing I voted my heart and my conscience, and I voted for the person I most wanted to run this country, and that is former New Mexico Governor Gary Johnson running under the Libertarian banner.
I suspected that was what you would say. So my question is he
pretty good endorsement speech?
That is a good speech. Is he on whatever issues are most important to you? Is he closest to them, or is it that he is mostly just not one of the two parties, not one of the two gangs?
He's closest to them.
Okay.
I'm for balancing the budget. I'm for bringing the troops home. I'm for ending the war on drugs. Gary Johnson stands with me on all those issues. No. Ideologically and philosophically, anything you want to give it, Gary and I've known Gary for 12 years or more. I met him when he was, at that time, a moderate Republican before he was drummed out of the Republican Party. He was a moderate, very successful, popular New Mexico governor and served 2 terms, I believe.
Okay. Well, let's change gears here while we have some time. I wanted to ask you about the book, and let me repeat the title. It's a great title for those of us who can actually barely pronounce it. DemoCRIPS and ReBLOODlicans. No more gangs in government. But why not just call it American Conspiracies too?
Because there's nothing conspiratorial about this.
Wow.
This isn't a conspiracy. Everything written in this book is based completely on facts, figures, and what's going on.
But
there's no conspiracy. Why am I being pigeonholed into being a conspiracy theorist simply because I did a TV show on it and I wrote a book about it? This book is completely, there's no theories here. There's no anyone thinking this is what happened. This book is based at the end of every chapter. You can read and go exactly where the information was gotten from. And they can't deny anything in this book that's written. This is a factual book. It has nothing to do with conspiracy theories.
Well, maybe it was my mistake in the way I described that. I just thought in terms of the way you approach it, it almost seems like the Republican-Democratic conspiracy to maintain a two-party system.
It is.
Well, that's what I was getting at.
But it's not a theory.
Okay. Right.
Well, the wrong connotation is always given to the word theory. It may be a theory, because just as they like to loophole me now as a 9/11 conspiracy theorist, right? Well, theories are based upon scientific data and facts, and then you form a theory. You want to know the best, like when people tell me, the best example is the theory of evolution. They tell you it's just a theory, so you don't really have to believe it unless you want to. That's the perception. Well, a theory is based, you should believe theories, because there's also the theory of gravity. So just walk up on a building if you doubt it and step off, and you'll find out real quick that and that's called the theory of gravity. People need to understand the misuse of the word theory. Theory means it's based upon all scientific evidence, and that's what gives you the theory. To be able to say this is what happened because all the evidence points to this and we can pretty well eliminate everything else, so this is the way it is. There's only the theory of gravity, but we all know, I think, that gravity is pretty real.
Let me ask you this. There's several major themes in the book. 2 of them towards the end are interesting. The idea of big media's collusion with the Democrats and Republicans to keep things as they are, and then also
Yep.
I like this, the devilish marriage of church and state. Which of these, whether it's one of these two or any of the others in the book, drives you the craziest in terms of the system as it is?
Probably the separation of church and state. Because I'm so tired of religious organizations and religious things trying to come into the course of the government. I won the award nationally for understanding the separation of church and state when I was governor of Minnesota. I'm the only governor out of all 50 that refused to declare National Prayer Day. And my reasons being, you don't need the government to tell you to pray.
Right.
Pray all you want. Pray 20 times today if you feel the need to. You don't need me, the governor, or government saying, okay, this is an official day you pray. Because if I did that, then there are atheists. I would then have to be fair, declare National No Prayer Day. And I don't want to get involved in all that. Religion should be a private sector thing, just like gay marriage right now. They got the public voting on it. It's absurd to allow the public to vote on a civil rights issue. You're asking a majority to vote on a minority issue. If we allowed that, we'd probably still have slavery. You know?
Yeah.
If they let you go into the ballot booth and decide. You need elected officials with courage who can go in there and say, you know what, this is discrimination in its finest form. We don't discriminate. It's not up to government to discriminate, and we're certainly not going to amend the Constitution, where constitutions are there to protect people's rights. Constitutions are not there to discriminate. And that's in essence what these cowards are asking the voters to do, because they won't do it themselves. And so I know I'm breaking off on another little tangent there, but you get the gist of where I'm going.
It's all right. I want to squeeze in one of our listeners sent in a question for me to ask you, and we'll have to do this one quickly. But
church and state worries me the most. And, getting back to it, and I'll finish it quick. Hold your train. All that government should allow is civil unions. That way, when two people apply, they don't even have to put down their sex. Marriage should be defined by the church, which is a private sector. If the church doesn't want to recognize gay marriage, they're free to do so if they want to discriminate. But government should not be in the business of discrimination. End of the tirade.
I think a lot of people can agree with that. All right, so this guy, that's all right. This guy wanted to know, I guess based on the TV series that you did, American Conspiracy, and the book, of course, from it, he wondered if you had ever feared for your personal safety covering these stories and these theories.
Well, if you watch this year, you're going to see that I'll just state that there's a death that occurs this year on an episode.
Okay, we're
that ought to be intriguing enough to get everybody to watch, because it ain't scripted.
All right. Well, we're going to assume it's not you.
It wasn't done by design. Well, it may be done by design, but it wasn't done by the design of our show to have someone die.
When does the show return?
It'll be on November 7th, 10 Eastern, 9 Central.
Okay.
Ironically, we found it interesting right after the elections.
Yeah, that is kind of interesting time.
Because we finished them last fall right normal, and normally they go on in the winter.
Okay.
And they just kept them and kept them and kept them, and they sat on them until they finally told us, okay, they're going to go on November 7th.
All right. Well, folks, listen, you can get your copy of DemoCRIPS and ReBLOODlicans, No More Gangs in Government, by Governor Jesse Ventura, in great bookstores everywhere, or you can order it right now at a great price at mrmedia.com, mrmedia.com. Governor, it's always fun to have you on here. And
thank you.
My
pleasure.
So much. Well, thank you so much for joining us on Mr. Media today.
Okay, always a pleasure. We'll do it again sometime, and I urge the citizens out there, be vigilant and vote for the candidate that your heart and mind tells you to. You're not there to pick a winner.
Great.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Governor. Bye-bye. You can see and hear almost 1,000 Mr. Media interviews by visiting our main site, mrmedia.com, mrmedia.com. Or check out the more than 200 video interviews on the Mr. Media radio site on YouTube. And I'd sure appreciate if you'd show some love for Mr. Media's advertisers, including Stitcher. Apple named Stitcher a top 5 news app of 2011. It's a free mobile app for your smartphone or tablet that lets you listen to your favorite shows and discover the best of news, entertainment, and sports on demand. You can listen whenever you want to more than 5,000 shows, get customized recommendations, and discover what your friends are listening to. My own list of Stitcher favorites is pretty eclectic. I start my day with an hour of MSNBC's Morning Joe with Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski. Then it's the latest 2-minute update from the Onion News Network. After that, I'll listen to WTF with Mark Maron, Here's the Thing with Alec Baldwin, HBO's Real Time with Bill Maher, and excerpts from E's Chelsea Lately and The Soup with Joel McHale. Also in regular rotation on my Stitcher playlist, the BS Report with ESPN's Bill Simmons, the TechCrunch Headlines, and the Don Geronimo Show. The latest episodes of each show, whether originating from broadcasts, cable TV, radio syndication, or podcasts, are continuously updated. Stitcher is a free app for your iPhone, iPad, Kindle, Fire, BlackBerry, Droid, and more. And show your support of Mr. Media by getting, did I mention it's free? The app at Stitcher.com/Mr. Media. That's Stitcher.com/MR Media. Stitcher Smart Radio, the smarter way to listen to radio. We're also supported by Audible. Check out Audible's 30-day trial membership and download the audiobook version of the book everyone's been talking about, 50 Shades of Grey by E.L. James. Sign up for your free trial today at audible.com/radio. Again, audibletrial.com/radio. And finally, if you need a disc jockey for a wedding, bar mitzvah, corporate event, or just a big old party, please consider calling 1-800-DIAL-DJs, the party authority for all your party entertainment needs. You can call 1-800-DIAL-DJs or go to their website, 1-800-DIAL-DJs.com, and tell them Mr. Media sent you. And thanks for listening.
Hi, this is Mark Margolis. I played Tio on Breaking Bad. And if you don't start listening to Mr. Media, I'm going to have to ding my bell.